Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Monday evening to you all. Hope you guys had a great start to your week, a great Monday out there, and having a great evening so far. Got you a big update on what is going on in the tropics. It looks very active, but is anything going to be super threatening for anybody? So that is what we're going to talk about in this video. There's three areas to talk about. One's in the Gulf of Mexico. Two's the bigger one we've been talking about for almost a week now, which has now been dubbed the potential cyclone 2. By the time some of you folks watch this video, it might be Tropical Storm Bonnie, but it is now forecasted by the National Hurricane Center to become Tropical Storm Bonnie by this time tomorrow. It should be. And it's actually forecast to become a hurricane by the National Hurricane Center. And then we're going to talk a little bit about that system behind it. So we're going to break all this down, go over some model guidance, and really talk about what this means for who. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. Appreciate the support. It's been kind of slow for a while, but, it's been nice. But at the same time, I'm definitely ready for things to pick back up again. But at the same time, of course, we don't want anything life-threatening or anything like that. But I really appreciate people who've continued to tune in the slower times. I know I say this every single video just about. It might get annoying, but I just want to always show my appreciation to you guys. So I really do appreciate y'all. If you guys got anything I can pray about, please put it in the comments below. Gives me an opportunity to pray over it, and it gives others an opportunity to do so too. So I've had a lot of comments, and this happened last year around hurricane season 2, talking about mention my area here in the Caribbean. I want to let y'all know I don't know the name of every single island in the Caribbean, every single country. I know the ones that are kind of more known than others, but I will promise you guys I will learn them more as we get deeper into hurricane season. Some of you folks in the Caribbean islands, Jamaica, Cuba, all the smaller islands in between are always so nice and kind. I don't think I've had one smart remark from anybody down that region, so I really appreciate you guys. Same for the folks up there in Canada. If a couple people from Canada has chimed in, always been really nice. But anyways, let's get off this and let's get rolling here. National Hurricane Center right now, you got this area right here that still has a 20% chance to develop within the next 5 days. No big changes with the models today as far as really intensifying any chances for development with this. It stayed about the same, and it could intensify as it kind of approaches the northern islands of the Lesser Antilles. What we're really watching is this potential tropical cyclone 2. So this is forecast to be a tropical storm. We'll talk about this throughout most of the video. And then we still got this. This disturbance has entered the Gulf of Mexico and will kind of dwindle and move west or maybe southwest in general. And we'll have a chance, basically here in the armpit of the Gulf of Mexico, the northwest armpit, if you will, and we'll have a chance to intensify into some kind of tropical disturbance and could bring areas of Texas, maybe even Louisiana, a lot of rain. It could bring rain deep into Texas too. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. So let's talk about what is soon to be Bonnie. Check it out. This dropped at 5 p.m. It kind of took some people a little bit by surprise, but there is some very favorable conditions ahead for this system. But the fact that it's going to move so south, it may interact with portions of South America, as you can tell, and a little bit of land interaction, and just the fact that the waters aren't quite as warm in this southern section of the Caribbean like you would think they would be. Temperatures probably around, lower 80s, which is warm enough for tropical development, but at the same time they're warm enough to sustain tropical development for sure. But anyways, you got tropical storm warnings up for these islands right here. We'll get a little bit closer on this here in a second. And in general today, the hurricane hunters went out there for the first time and they actually found tropical storm winds in a very unorganized system on the northern side of whatever circulation is out there, which they really could not find any kind of low-level circulation, which you really need to find for us to really consider this an actual tropical storm. But they will continue to fly out there over the next several days for sure. But as you can tell, where it says S, that is saying where this could become a tropical storm. That stands for storm, tropical storm. So by 2 p.m. tomorrow, around tomorrow afternoon, certainly by this time tomorrow, we could have an all-out tropical storm heading into the southern windward islands for sure. Grenada, watch out, and the islands to the south, Trinidad, certainly could expect some brief tropical storm conditions for you guys. But a little bit north, the northern areas, north of Grenada, probably some breezy conditions and probably some showery and some tropical moisture, but not expecting anything too crazy. We'll talk a little bit about that here in a second. But this is actually supposed to become a hurricane, per the National Hurricane Center, by Friday. So it would be Hurricane Bonnie if this actually unfolds. So a little bit closer here, this is where whatever center of circulation there is, it's right here. And these are tropical storm warnings up for the island of Grenada, Trinidad right down here. And then you go a little bit further north, you guys in the islands just north, I think St. Lucia is one island. Hopefully I don't butcher any names. I do apologize ahead of time. I do not have all these. I certainly do not have all these memorized. Sorry about that. But in general, tropical storm warnings certainly up already. So tropical storm warnings at least expected for burst of periods, not necessarily sustained for hours on end, but you're going to have some gusty 40, maybe as much as 50 mile per hour wind gusts out there. So certainly be aware. You guys know about the tropical weather out here, but go on and be on guard with this for sure, because you guys are going to experience your first tropical disturbance of the year. But in general, you look at the entire basin, the Atlantic basin, the Gulf of Mexico, the Caribbean, the tropical Atlantic out here. This is the wave behind it that has an area of interest that has a 20% chance to develop, as it may move a little bit more northwest than what potential Bonnie will do. But this is the area right here where it will likely become Bonnie. Very unorganized. It's actually entering a more unfavorable time of the day for actually organizing further. Something what we call DMIN is basically DMIN, and that's basically stands for diurnal minimum, which this is the period of the day when basically the sea surface temperature is the closest to the actual air temperature. So sea surface temperature might be 82, 83, 84 degrees, and the air temperature as it's dropping for its low of the day, as it kind of continues to drop throughout the overnight hours, might be, I don't know, maybe 83, 84, within a degree or two within the sea surface temperature. That lack of difference causes a diminish and drop back of convection. You need a big kind of gap, like 5, 6, 7 degrees, much more larger. That is called diurnal maximum, and that is what occurs in the morning, when basically your sea surface temperatures are sitting there in the 80s, but your temperatures and the air temperature is maybe only in the 70s. So there's a little bit more of a difference, and that little bit of difference can cause a more burst of convection. But anyways, this is an area right here we're watching in the northern Gulf of Mexico. This will have a chance to develop. It will. Let's get a little bit closer on what is 94 Invest, or potential tropical cyclone 2. That's very elongated. PTC2 is what we call it in short. But in general, this still just looks like a strong tropical wave to me. But it could look much more different by the time we wake up tomorrow morning. And in general, this is starting to enter a much more favorable environment ahead of it. Not necessarily an environment for rapid intensification or anything like that, but much more favorable compared to what it's been seeing over the last several days. But just blow up in convection, and in general, you can actually see a diminishing convection a little bit over the last hour or two. But we'll see how this does. We'll look in the Gulf of Mexico. You need to watch out for this, certainly if you're in Texas. It may be a good thing, but you don't want to get too much rain too fast. But these Gulf of Mexico systems can be very sneaky, guys. We might talk, hey, nothing's going to happen, nothing's going to happen, nothing's going to happen. Then suddenly something does happen, and suddenly you have a weak tropical storm make an impact that suddenly makes impact around Houston, Texas. It happened last year with Tropical Storm Danny here off the coast of the southeast. It happened the year before also with another tropical storm. The name is not dawning on me right now, but so it happens, and this could be the next case of where it happens. So this is basically a leftover complex of thunderstorms. So you can actually see the outflows still firing and flowing through the middle of the Gulf of Mexico, and this is continuing to fire off convection, and this will actually try to develop into a tropical system over the next 48 hours. So in general, you look at the GFS, we'll start this by around this time tomorrow, maybe around tomorrow afternoon. Here comes the low pressure Gulf moisture right here. The GFS really has this initializing weaker than what maybe the National Hurricane Center would have it, but here it is. Overnight tomorrow night, I think the weather will be the worst for those islands I mentioned in the Windward Islands, Grenada, places like that, surrounding islands. Some showers, some windy, showery conditions, maybe some tropical squalls out there for sure. But this will move on through. The weather will clear up. But then another system that you got to watch out behind this, and this might affect areas of the northern Lesser Antilles. in the northern Windward Islands. So we have to watch this behind it. So this is the other area of interest. And I think that this might be its most intense, if you would even call it intense, probably sometime late this week. And then I think some shear in the southwest Atlantic, north of the Greater Antilles, might try to rip this apart. But we'll see what happens here. But in general, watch out. Watch out with this little quick-moving system. This has a brief opportunity to become some kind of system. But then we keep our eyes back on this. Here it is. This is when, if there's going to be any quick intensification with what would likely be Bonnie, it's going to be deep down here in the Caribbean as it heads towards Central America. And then this continues. It's not going to get anywhere close to Jamaica, any islands around it, certainly not Cuba. It's just going to stay well south, way deep down in the Caribbean, and head towards Central America, and might briefly try to hit hurricane status. So we'll see if that ends up happening. You know, so we back this up, and we go on and go flip to the European here. Same kind of deal. Here comes our system for the European. Again, the worst weather, just like the European is saying, will be overnight tomorrow night. But you'll start to feel the effects of this as early as tonight, maybe until tomorrow morning for those islands I mentioned, the Windward Islands. And then this continues and almost just wants to scrape the northern sections of South America. It's pretty wild how far south this is. It's this very strong ridge of high pressure is nosing into the southwest Atlantic, out here in the North Atlantic, and pushing any kind of moisture very far south. So this continues, gets bogged down very, very far south. The European, I mean, almost just, it just has this very far south down in Central America. It's pretty crazy. You don't see tropical systems way down here very often. It's not really uncommon necessarily, but it's not necessarily super uncommon. They like to hang out around here. Maybe not this far south, but this ridge of high pressure is very dominant up here, and it's pushing everything down here. But in general, landfall in Central America as a tropical storm per the Euro. But here comes this tropical wave, bringing some nasty weather for areas of the Lesser Antilles, maybe some tropical moisture for areas of starting to enter the Bahamas, so we'll watch out for that. But in general, this does not look like it has any long-term chances for it to be anything impactful, especially for the southeast U.S. But as far as conditions for what will be Bonnie, most likely, I know I'm going and speaking in future tense here as if this is already Bonnie, but you know, the National Hurricane Center is saying it, and I have some high confidence, just like I have over the last 4 or 5 days, that this will be Bonnie. We'll continue to move forward here. Now, this is going to get a little bit more scientific. So the system is right here, right? And let's make sure on what I want it to be on here. This is 200 millibar wind streams. So the system is right here. There's going to be an opportunity. Yes, any system deals with at least a little bit of shear, maybe 5 to 10 knots of shear, but that's not enough to even hardly do much with even weaker systems. So if you notice here, the system's right into here. So there's something called, and I know you don't see an L here, but there is a tropical system right here. It's just so weak that you can barely see it. Here's a better graphic right here. These streamlines are kind of wanting to go in this direction. Now, this isn't a great example of it. In fact, let's go on and look at the European. That probably shows a much better example of it here. And let's back this up here. We're going forward here. All right, we'll get it together here. So there's going to be something called an anticyclone over this system, very far up, over 30,000 feet up in the atmosphere. These are winds that spin in the opposite direction, hence anti-cyclone, as the actual circulation of the tropical system. So what this happens, what this causes is it actually pushes air away from the circulation of the system very far above the actual low-level and mid-level convection of these tropical systems. It pushes air away from them. Now, I know your first thought would think, well, that probably causes it to weaken. Well, it doesn't, as it pushes air. And I'm telling you, we're going to provide much better examples of this when the time is right, when we're talking about something much more bigger and significant out here. But there is going to be an opposite direction, opposite flow aloft that will actually help push wind away from the circulation, which causes more air to rise, which hence, and then it keeps on going, pushes the air back, more air rises, pushes air back, and this actually causes a ventilation of the system, and it causes more convection to bubble up as you have rising air. Rising air causes more convection. So I know that's getting really deep into this, but this is actually very important because when you have something like this overhead of these tropical systems, this really can get a tropical system excited and going here. And so a lot of times this time of the year, you have what we call a TUTS, which is like a tropical upper level low. And here it is right here. This is, for tomorrow morning, for example. This is a good example of a TUT. It's right here, but it gets kind of pinched off from the main flow. Gets lost here, and there's some lingering shear left around. Well, this is too far to even affect this system. A lot of times this noses well into the Caribbean, well and down here in the Eastern Caribbean, what we call the hurricane graveyard. A lot of times see very strong hurricanes in this portion of the Eastern Caribbean. But in general, conditions are going to become much more favorable. We'll leave it at that. But I tell you what, it's much warmer in areas of the Northwest Caribbean than it is the southern section of the Caribbean. But I don't think this is going to be much very impactful for this tropical system. I know you're thinking, is the water 28 degrees out here in the Caribbean? No, this is measuring in Celsius. So, 27, 28 degrees in Celsius. Think of this is in the low 80s in Fahrenheit. So sea surface temperatures are warm enough to support tropical development and sustain it. Now, you need really sea surface temperatures like you have in the Gulf of Mexico to really produce rapid intensification, like temperatures in the low to mid to upper 80s really produces rapid intensification. But in general, conditions are prime as far as sea surface temperatures, so there's nothing preventing development there. But one thing we're going to watch here, we're going to talk about the Gulf of Mexico very briefly. This is what we call 850 vortices. The 850s millibar is about, give or take about a mile up in the atmosphere. But in general, we look at this to find a spin. So you look at these little wind barbs right here. They're going this way. They're going this way. They're coming out the east. Then they're coming out the northeast and the north. I'm getting all clustered here. But then they're coming out the north. They're coming out the northwest and the west. In general, you have a circulation from this vortice. And as you're moving forward, this vortice, as it gets darker in colors, symbolizes that, hey, we have a stronger vort out here, what we call a vort max, and we have a stronger circulation. And this is based off the European model. So the European model likes the idea of a spin up forming off this leftover energy that we're looking at right here. Something is going to develop, maybe kind of drift southwest and then move back north. So we have to watch this for sure. There's definitely going to bring an influx of moisture for areas of Texas as it moves back north. And here you go. You can see this here. This is around, midweek right here. We're getting into later in the week. And I know this doesn't look like widespread moisture, but this continues. And this is slow moving. So I think areas like Houston, which are under a drought right now, could see a lot of rain, especially the later part of this week. So it's something we need to watch out for. Flooding may become an issue because it's good to get rain, but it's not really great to get it super fast and all at one time. It causes a lot of runoff, especially if the soil's like, okay, hey, I haven't had any rain in forever, and now you're pretty much going to drown me. I can't even absorb this quick enough. But, this might be the situation. But there's a good chance for rain. Now, hopefully you guys are getting rain out there in Texas right now. Definitely give me some feedback on that. But in general, between now and the next 6.5 days, this is how much rain potentially could be expected. This is good. This shows shows the entire state of Texas getting rain over the next week, but especially southeast Texas. Watch out, Houston, get a few inches of rain. This could escalate quicker. Now, I'm not talking about a hurricane, but I would not be surprised one bit if suddenly we have a tropical storm in the northwest Gulf of Mexico hitting Texas. So I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I'm saying that it's, it could. It really could. And certainly not, super low chances of it not happening. So anyways, that's all I got. I'll give you guys an update in the morning, see if anything changes in the tropics. And, of course, I'll give you your daily forecast. God bless all y'all. Have a great night.